What's going on, divers? Welcome back to the Duke's Dive. Quick couple clarifications from last week. I meant to say the road warrior animal has passed away. Big loss. Of course, I just wanted to clarify myself on that. I said animal road, something. But I meant obviously the road warrior animal. In my match with Tennille versus Jordine Grace, I forgot to finish her move for Tennille Dashwood. That move is called the Spotlight Kick. Now moving on. We had some technical difficulties over at the Tornado Tag podcast this week, so they didn't have an episode this week, so keep an eye on the Tornado Tag podcast and the IWEP network in general. We're going to get me on there. We're going to get an episode going with the Duke. I don't know if that's going to be next week. These guys got a schedule. They got a full schedule. They got stuff they got to keep up with. So with that being said, we're going to get me on there one day here. If not this week upcoming, then it's going to be the week after that, something like that. We're going to get back going. Them guys had some technical difficulties this past week here, and it sucks when you have stuff like that and you got, you're all planning for a great episode. And of course we were going to speak about Clash of Champions and the week of wrestling and all of that, with the guys over there, the great guys at Tornado Tag Podcast. But like I said, it wasn't to be. Too many technical difficulties. Like I said, keep an eye on the podcast page. Keep an eye on Tornado Tag, IWEP, Truth Behind Illusion podcast, the Bangin' Beers podcast, the whole IWEP network. Keep an eye on that. You'll be up to date with everything going on. With that being said, my shout out this week will go to JPI Videos on Facebook. They do a lot of New Japan Wrestling videos and stuff like that. There's a great Facebook video page I just found out. Of course, you can join my community on Facebook. We are the internet wrestling community. I'll leave a link for that in the description of the podcast. If you'd like to join one of the biggest, fastest growing Facebook professional wrestling discussion groups on Facebook, hopefully we'll be bringing that out to other media platforms as well. My disdain for Facebook. So I'd like to be able to have that platform on many social media networks, so that way we are there no matter what. But I digest. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the week of wrestling. The Duke's Dive is my weekly foray into professional wrestling. If you don't know, I cover pretty much everything on TV or whatever is on TV that I'd like to cover. This week I just added Ring of Honor as a tremendous poll on my on my Twitter. I put up if you would like to see me cover New Japan or Ring of Honor, and a tremendous show of support for Ring of Honor. So we're going to be covering Ring of Honor, and I also want to say before I jump into this, thank you for the tremendous showing of support for the last episode, the first episode of the third season. I'd like to announce that is my highest viewed, highest listened to podcast so far, completely doubling my numbers from my last most listened to podcast, completely doubled that. Thank you for the tremendous show of support. Thank you for, sharing, liking, interacting, and just in general getting me out there. I very much appreciate that. It's a game of we can all do so much together if we can just help each other out. You know what I mean? A simple like, a share, a comment, anything just shakes up them algorithms. They get that people that you like out there to other people as well, you know what I mean? So when you're liking, you're sharing, you're commenting, it's showing other people your interest in it, it's putting it in their timelines, it's putting it in their face, so maybe other individuals who might be interested in this kind of podcast might enjoy that as well. But you've listened to me ramble enough so far, so let's get into this week of wrestling. We're going to open it up with Monday Night Raw from September 28th, 2020. We opened it up with Drew McIntyre, of course. The first official match was Asuka versus Zelina Vega. Nice little rematch from Clash of Champions. It was shorter than TV, though. Asuka gets tired of... She tried getting... It was a rematch from Clash of Champions, basically. It's just a nice little match. A nice little rematch. Asuka does pick up the win here. She gets the submission that she was trying to get at Clash of Champions. She picks up a win over Zelina Vega. The next match is Keith Lee versus Andrade. A little short for athletes of their caliber. You know, you got Andrade there from Los Ingobernables. And Keith Lee. Keith Lee does win this one by pinfall. I would have liked to have seen that one go just a little bit longer. Next up here we have R-Truth for the 24/7 title segment. He wins that title back from Drew Gulak. And the fourth match is Natalya and Lana versus Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Lana is so much better than she has been in the past. She just looks great. This was a pretty decent match. And Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke do pick up that match by way of pinfall. We move on to my match of the evening for Monday Night Raw, which was Kevin Owens versus Aleister Black. Kevin Owens wins this one by disqualification. Aleister's repackaged. He's got a new gear. He's got a new song. Nice little German suplex by Owens and a nice senton off the apron to the outside by him as well. But like I said, Kevin Owens does pick up the win over a very showing Aleister Black on this one. The next up, we have an actual 24/7 title match in a ring. R-Truth versus Akira Tozawa versus Drew Gulak. R-Truth is a 41-time 24/7 champion. He picks up the win over Akira Tozawa and Drew Gulak. The next up was Buddy Murphy versus Dominic Mysterio. Of course, this, story playing out with Ray's daughter and Buddy Murphy and Dominic getting involved and Seth Rollins reading messages and stuff like this. Dominic was pretty impressive, lots of emotion. Buddy Murphy does pick up the win over Dominic Mysterio in this one via pinfall. And the next matchup we have is the Hurt Business versus Mustafa Ali, Ricochet, and Apollo Crews. Retribution does tease an interruption here, but of course they were not at the arena. Ricochet, Ali, Crews, and Ali pin MVP via pinfall to pick up that win. Ricochet, Ali, and Crews win that one. Next up is Drew McIntyre versus Robert Roode. Robert Roode is indeed back to Monday Night Raw. He's not on SmackDown anymore. Still has a little bit of a cahoots with Dolph Ziggler. Of course, Dolph Ziggler bringing him out. We thought maybe it was going to be Drew Mac versus Dolph there, but of course Dolph could not because he's already accepted the challenge, something like that. Robert Roode returns. Orton attacks all the legends in disguise after the match, but Drew McIntyre does pick the match up via pinfall here, and like I said, after the match, all the legends were in the Legends Lounge. Randy Orton puts on the hater blockers. He puts on the old night vision goggles and goes in there and takes out the legends with a steel chair. Pretty nuts if you ask me. Like I said, it was an okay Raw. My favorite match of the night was probably Kevin Owens versus Aleister Black. So let's move into Impact, shall we? September 29th, 2020. We opened the matchup with Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary versus Havoc and Nevaeh. Rosemary drove me nuts this match. I don't know if that was her making a noise or was it Havoc. I'm pretty sure it was Rosemary screaming the whole time. Oh, drove me goddamn nuts. Nice double spear by Rosa and Taya, though. Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary do pick up the win here. Moving on to the second match of the evening, Jordynne Grace versus Tennille Dashwood, and another nice little rematch from their match last week. Dashwood's social influencer at ringside is going to need to do something to separate himself from being called a Robert Stone brand guy. You know what I mean? He's got to do something to separate himself from the story they're trying to tell with Robert Stone and Chelsea Von Green or Von Blonde, something like that. Chelsea, I don't know her. Chelsea, whatever. Name over there on NXT, but they got to do something to separate them two stories. He's got to do something more than just be at ring taking pictures. That's how I feel anyway. That's just how I feel. Nice Vader Splash combo from Grace. Like I said, Tennille Dashwood's finisher is called a Spotlight Kick. This match showed a very vicious side from Jordynne Grace, who does pick up the win by submission in here. Now we move on to the third match of the evening, which was my match of the evening, which was the Rascals versus the Good Brothers. Rascals, my favorite on TV tag team. They work so well together. I love the move Hot Fire Flame from the Rascals, where Zach Wentz does that standing moonsault and Desmond pushes him. The Good Brothers call out Motor City Machine Guns after the match. They do pick up the win. They say they came to Impact for the titles and that Motor City Machine Guns are their first target. So, they got a hell of a tag team division here. And that's what the Good Brothers are wanting. They were wanting them tag team titles, and they say that the Motor City Machine Guns are their first title. They're their first target. The next one up here is a little bit of a silly billy. Is a John Swinger versus Falaba. Fala's looking super good. Swinger, of course, cheats using Crazy Steve's monkey. He wins the match, but this match gets restarted. Falaba splashes him, big splash in the corner, picks up the win. He's going to be the best man, or the something or other for the something or other bachelor party, ding dang, bing lang, ding dang thing over there going on. I don't know. Next up here is Ace Austin and Madman Fulton versus the North. Ace Austin praying a little Healy prick, he was just standing around the ringside. He wasn't even up on the apron for a lot of the early going of this one. Different side of Ace for sure than I've ever seen live. Fulton looks incredible ever since I've seen him about a year or so ago. Awesome off of the shoulders. Aerial move by Ace Austin off of Fulton's shoulders. An awesome ending sequence by the North. Joss Alexander with a bloody mouth. Crazy match. The North do pick up the win over Ace Austin and Madman Fulton on this one. And that concludes a pretty good episode of Impact. Now, tonight, Saturday night, is a Impact Plus event, which will be called Victory Road. I have some matches on here if you're interested. Susie will take on Deonna Purrazzo for the Impact Knockouts Championship title. Now, if Susie wins that, she'll be taking on Kylie Ray at Bound for Glory. Now, you know what I mean? What could go on there? Friend versus friend. Are we going to see Susie or are we going to see Su Yung? I think if she's got a title on the line, it's going to be Su Yung coming out there. That's going to be crazy just tonight. We got Heath Slater and Rhino in an unsanctioned match against Reno Scum. We got Eric Young taking on Eddie Edwards for the Impact Title Championship. We got Rohit Raju defending the Impact X Division Championship and then defeat Rohit challenge. Tennille Dashwood versus Jordynne Grace again in a rubber match. Brian Myers versus Tommy Dreamer. That's going to be a great event. And then next week for Impact, we have already announced Ace and Fulton versus the Motor City Machine Guns. We have also Tasha Steelz and Kira Hogan versus Rosemary and Taya. So another little women's tag team match and another Ace and Fulton match. So that's going to be pretty decent, I do believe. Like I said, my match of the night there would be the Rascals versus the Good Brothers. Moving on to my new segment here, Ring of Honor for 10/3/2020. Of course, we had Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccoboni. ROH opens up to see that Matt Sydal and David Finlay move up in the Pure Tournament in the first televised segment of the Pure Tournament. Some of those matches are available on Ring of Honor's YouTube page. Jonathan Gresham beat Wheeler Yuta. Matt Sydal beat Delirious via tap out. Jay Lethal beat Dalton Castle, and David Finlay beat Rocky Romero. We open it up with Fred Yehi versus Silas Young, a great pre-match storytelling vignette explaining a bit about both competitors. Yehi with a 57.1 winning percent in all matches in 2020, the second highest since his rookie year. He reached reached in 73% of the last. Reached the last half of the 70% in 73% of the last 11 tournaments he was in outside of Ring of Honor. Excuse me. Now Silas Young is 11-6 versus all opponents in this tournament. His singles matches since 2017, 65% wins. His tournament successes are as follows: 2019 TV Championship, #1 contender, 2017 Survival of the Fittest finalist, 2017 Soaring Eagle Cup finalist, 2016 Tag Wars winner. Winner either will face Russ Taylor or Tracy Hot Sauce Williams. You only get 3 rope breaks in the Pure Wrestling match here. You only get 1 closed punch to the face and no outside interference, or that person is going to be removed and pretty much fired. The results of that one was Fred Yehi picks up the win via pinfall. 15-minute time stipulation on that match as well. Fred Yehi picks up a serious win, a big underdog win on that one, I do believe. I feel anyway. You came into that man's home ground, home turf, and you whooped him. Show of sportsmanship after the match. Code of conduct followed. The next up here, we have our main event of the evening, which was Josh Woods versus Kenny King. Woods won the 2017 Prospect Tournament in Boston. He's 11-4 in his ROH record. King, of course, 8-1 record in Baltimore and 1 fall matches since 4-7-12. 15-7 in singles matches since 6-12-18, 68% wins. 9-5 in all-time in single matches against wrestlers in this tournament. Of course, the winner of this one will take on the winner of PJ Black versus Tony Deppen next week. This was a very good one. This is my match of the week. The results is Josh Woods by judges split decision. This one went to 15 minutes. Of course, Kenny King had Josh Woods, I think, in a single leg Boston Crab. He did not tap out, and this judge's decision was based on the fact that Kenny King did use one of his closed fists in this match. I think he was getting kind of upset that, his other members of it, Los Ingo's Bernale have gold, but he does not. He really wanted to show up and show out in this tournament so he could get that title. So next week we'll see PJ Black versus Tony Deppen and Russ Taylor versus Hot Sauce Williams. And then they'll go on to face Fred Yehi and Josh Woods on that one. That was Ring of Honor of the week. Next up here is AEW Dynamite for the 30th. Excuse me, Ring of Honor was not on the October 3rd. That was on the 27th. I'm getting a little confused on my times. Things I'm not used to whenever Ring of Honor airs. I think it's either on Tuesdays and a repeat on Saturdays or something else. Maybe it's different because of the Pure tournament. Excuse me, let's go on into AEW Dynamite. The match opens up with Absolute Ricky Starks versus Darby Allin. Darby, very impressive submission tactics on display with Hobbs and... impressive submission tactics on display. Of course, Will Hobbs and Brian Cage come out to the entrance. They fight a little bit. We see a crazy-ass mid-air spear from Ricky Starks on this one. Of course, Darby Allin does pick up the win via pinfall here. Next up, we've seen a great promo by Cody Rhodes. He comes out and he explains a little bit about him losing the title and having a television show. As Executive Vice President of AEW, he accepts the dog collar match next week for the TNT title. The two come out in the brawl. The locker room spills out. Brandy sentons onto the Dark Order and fights Anna Jay. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. Of course, the Dark Order keeping me watching Being the Elite every week. John Silver's just such a funny guy. Him and Reynolds, I can't wait to see what they do week after week. So funny. Him and Brody Lee. I just love watching the Dark Order and Being the Elite. Of course, the Young Bucks super kicked Tony Schiavone during a FTR interview. The next match, of course, is SCU versus FTR in a 20-minute Brush with Greatness match. Daniel gets a falsely ejected from ringside. We see an awesome Tope Con Hero from Scorpio side to FTR. Tully Blanchard gets involved, helps FTR pick up the win via pinfall, trips up one of the guys. They get a pinfall victory, FTR does, and the rest is history here. Next matchup here we have Isaiah Cassidy versus Chris Jericho. Next week is a 30 years of Jericho event. Luther attacks Chris Jericho in the crowd. Cassidy was super good, an over a 10-minute match. But Chris Jericho does pick up the win via pinfall after hitting the Judas effect on Isaiah Cassidy, coming off the top of the rope, not the top turnbuckle, but off the top of the rope like a phenomenal forearm, and hit him with the Judas effect there, picking up the win. Next match up here, the fifth match, is Orange Cassidy versus number 10 of the Dark Order. Of course, number 10 is Preston Lance. Love the Dark Order. Dark Order AF, brother. Awesome beach break finisher by Cassidy, who picks up the win via pinfall. Awesome stuff. I'm going to go ahead and call that one my match of the week for AEW, just because I loved Cassidy, and Cody Vance is pretty cool too. Mr. Preston Vance, where he goes by aside to the name of 10. The next one was the returning Britt Baker versus Red Velvet. Red was on Dark a couple of times, I do believe. She was had a bout with Tay Conti. Nice fisherman neck breaker by Britt Baker. She does pick up the win. And then, of course, attacks Red Velvet after the match with the lockjaw. Excuse me. My papers are rattling here. November 7th will always. Excuse me. November 7th, we will see AEW Full Gear. A clarification from last week, Moxley's submission move is called the Bulldog Choke. Brian Cage versus Will Hobbs for the FTW Championship next week. And then, of course, October 14th, Moxley will face Lance Archer. We finish up AEW with the main event of the evening, which was Jon Moxley versus the opponent of Eddie Kingston's choice, which was actually the Butcher. Kingston says he doesn't tap last week, though, but addresses Bryce Remsburg. Butcher put Moxley to his limit. Good work to Moxley's knee, using the simple moves like the single Boston leg crab. Jon Moxley does pick up this win here, but we gotta wonder how banged up Moxley is after defending the title. So, moving on to after defeating MJF, and now he went through the ringer with the Butcher. He's only got till October 14th before he faces Lance Archer. Now, what's going to happen there? Is he going to have enough power to take on Lance Archer? I don't know. We're getting down to the wire here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go on and speak about NXT from the 30th. We opened up with Shotzi Blackheart versus Dakota Kai. Nice step up enziguri combo and rope senton by Shotzi. A crazy apron go around by Shotzi. Shotzi does pick up the win over a trying Dakota Kai here by pinfall. We move on to Cameron Grimes versus Ariel Dominguez. Isn't that awesome? Of course, I do believe Ariel was on MLW for a while. Cameron Grimes, instant squash, stepping stones to the moon match. As soon as Ariel steps in there, he does the cave in. Grimes picks up the win and calls this other guy out, and this guy gets attacked on the stage by Rich Holland. Rich Holland comes out and picks up a win over Cameron Grimes due to ref stoppage. Rich Holland stomped a mud hole in the top of Cameron Grimes' head here, and referee calls a stoppage for that and declares Rich Holland the winner. Of course, next up here we got the fourth match, which was Kushida versus Tony Nese. Kushida crazy offensive in this one, picks up a win by a submission over Tony Nese. Awesome stuff here. Next up is Austin Theory versus Adam Cole. Theory counters the Panama Sunrise. Awesome stuff here. This is my, I'm going to go ahead and say this was my match of the week. Austin Theory versus Adam Cole. Adam Cole does pick up the win over Austin Theory here via pinfall. And we move on to the sixth match, which was Caden Carter with Casey Catanzaro there versus Xia Li. Xia Li also showing a very offensive, competitive side, but it did not prove to be very positive for her because she did not pick up the win over Caden Carter. Caden Carter picks up the win over Xia Li via pinfall. That puts us in our main event of the evening, which was Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae versus Priest and Io Shirai. Nice high-angle German suplex from Shirai to LeRae. Gargano and LeRae do pick up the win over Priest and Shirai. They tease that they pick up the North American title and the NXT Women's title. Moving into this Sunday, tomorrow evening, NXT TakeOver 31. We'll probably be covering that. I'll probably be covering that next week. And then this depending on whether or not I'll be on the Tornado Tag podcast. But either way, I'll cover that. briefly before next week's weekly dive into professional wrestling. So be on the lookout for that. Maybe I'll cover Victory Road as well. If not, then I'll just cover the results that were given to us on Impact, because as you know, that I told you this was an Impact Plus special event, before Bound for Glory. So let's cap the night off. Let's cap the week off with, of course, SmackDown from Friday. SmackDown's open up to Roman Reigns being named by Paul Heyman Tribal Chief. Roman says not yet. He doesn't want to be acknowledged by Paul Heyman as the Tribal Chief. He wants Jay to acknowledge him as the Tribal Chief. He calls him out. Roman does give Jay a title rematch at Hell in a Cell. He says this match will have the highest stakes we have ever seen in a WWE match, and this match will have real consequences. Now, Roman leaves and AJ comes in, runs in his mouth, and that leaves us to a match between Jey Uso and AJ Styles. Nice dive off the announcer table to kick the match off by Jey. Nice triple super kick finisher by Jey, who picks up the win over AJ Styles via pinfall. That was pretty cool. It was nice to see Jey test his mettle against a guy like AJ Styles in a singles competitive match. We've only seen him singles against Roman, and that was at Clash. Of course, Roman picked up the win there over Ref Stoppage. Not Ref Stoppage. Yeah, Ref Stopped it because Jimmy threw in the towel for Jey, who was getting his head pounded in for not acknowledging Roman as the Tribal Chief. The second match was John Morrison versus Otis. A very quick squash. Morrison so fluid in his movements, but Otis does pick up the win there. And Otis will be representing himself in court next week to defend his Money in the Bank briefcase against Miz and his shiesty lawyers. The next one was Sheamus versus Shorty G. Of course, next week Sheamus will take on Big E in a Falls Count Anywhere match of no entrance for Shorty G, but he did get a nice German suplex. But this one was another quick squash. Sheamus picks up the win. We, after this match, get a special SmackDown Kevin Owens show. Kevin Owens interviews Alexa Bliss. He was talking about her changes after coming in contact with The Fiend. She says she has been cleansed by The Fiend, and The Fiend's around all the time. Kevin Owens asks, if The Fiend's around now, and she says, well, yeah. And then the lights go off. Fiend comes out. The Fiend attacks Kevin Owens with the mandible claw, and puts him down. And Bliss and Fiend hold hands there. Crazy stuff. Is that the bride, or is just somebody, under him? I do believe, with everybody that's been going through the Wyatt family, Alexa Bliss has the chance to be one of the most impressive and the most interesting, at least. We lost Luke Harper. We don't know where the heck Eric Rowan is. You know what I mean? So, and we've already gone over the fact that Braun Strowman isn't joining back up with The Fiend anytime soon, or Bray Wyatt. Next match up here was King Corbin, Cesaro, and Shinsuke Nakamura versus Matt Riddle, Lince Dorado, and Gran Metalik. Of course, Kalisto is still being ostracized by the rest of the Lucha House Party. The Lucha House Party and Matt Riddle do pick up the win here. But of course, Kalisto does get involved, and there's still some hostility between the House Party and Kalisto. I do believe they'll be split up in the draft here. Next up, we've seen Sasha Banks come out and address her attack on Bayley. It cuts to commercial. It comes back, and we find out that the female from the vignettes over the past couple of weeks has been confirmed to be Carmella. we go back to Sasha, and we will find out that next week will be Bayley versus Sasha for a SmackDown Women's title opportunity. Sasha reveals she's all healed up. And the next week will also be The Fiend versus Kevin Owens. So that should be very awesome as well. We move on to the main event of the evening, Sami Zayn versus Jeff Hardy. Loved Hardy's face paint on this one. His face paint look. Of course, Zayn removes the turnbuckle pad during Jeff's entrance. It was great to see the Intercontinental title being defended on a main event. Of course, Sami Zayn does win via pinfall here to end SmackDown and to end the week of wrestling here. My match of the night there was I'm going to go ahead and say that match was Jey Uso and AJ Styles. So let's go ahead and say that we got Monday Night Raw here. And my match of the night was Kevin Owens versus Aleister Black. Excuse me. Impact was the Rascals versus the Good Brothers for my match of the night. Ring of Honor was Josh Woods versus Kenny Kings for my match of the week. SmackDown had, I do believe, Jey Uso versus AJ Styles. NXT's my match of the week was Austin Theory versus Adam Cole, and AEW was SCU versus FTR. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and give the nod to Impact Wrestling here. I'm going to go and say that was my match of the week. My total match of the week was the Rascals versus the Good Brothers. And with that being said, that was my weekly dive into professional wrestling here. My favorite match of the week totally was the Rascals versus the Good Brothers. I thought that was an excellent match. And before these dogs drive any of us nuts here because they won't shut up, I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here. I hope you had a great week. I hope you enjoyed the Duke's Dive. And I will see you next week. Thank you for joining me on the Duke's Dive. Thank you for listening. Make sure to leave a comment here. Like, comment, make sure you follow the Duke's Dive. And with that being said, join me next week, and I'll see you next week.